Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. And this will be my interpretation of what it looks like to have Rahu in your 8th house, Ketu in your 2nd house. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So before we get into this, we first have to understand who are these entities of Rahu and Ketu. This is coming from the story of the churning of the ocean of milk. There was a great battle between the Devatas and the Asuryas. And at the time, the Devatas were looking for a solution as there were many casualties on both sides. And the solution to this was to get the amrita, or the nectar, from the churning of the ocean. But in order to churn this great ocean, the Devatas needed the help of the Asuryas. And the plan was for the Devatas to get this nectar and not the Asuryas. But as this nectar came up from the ocean, the Asuryas took it and ran. And so Lord Vishnu stepped in and helped out the Devatas by disguising himself as a beautiful woman named Mohini. And Vishnu was able to deceive the Asuryas. He charmed and enchanted them with his looks. And so through this, he was able to secretly give the amrita to the Devatas behind his back. But there was one Asurya that did not fall for this, by the name of Swarabhanu. And Swarabhanu is the entity that we now know as Rahu and Ketu. Swarabhanu disguised himself as one of the Devatas and sat between the sun and the moon. And he was able to get a drop of the amrita, but not before the sun and the moon exposed him as an impostor. And due to this, Lord Vishnu beheaded him. And usually when Lord Vishnu beheads an entity, they go off into liberation. But because Swarabhanu had taken a drop of this elixir, part of him was stuck in this incarnation cycle, while the other half of him went off into liberation. And so Ketu is the body of this entity, is the liberated being that is all about moving towards this higher spiritual evolution. While Rahu was the head of this entity that was trapped in this reincarnating cycle of coming here into this material existence. And so Rahu represents our material incarnation. It's what brings us into this life. And so Rahu is the unresolved karma. It is the reason why we are here. It is all about our desires, our ambitions. It is all to do with the material world. Rahu is a very worldly entity, is very intellectual, is very much about this modern, mundane reality that we live in. Rahu is also very unconventional and shocking. And we can see this in both of these lunar nodes of Rahu and Ketu, that they both have a destabilizing effect. But in particular, Rahu is about standing out from the crowd. It is about becoming unconventional, being rebellious, stirring up controversy. So Rahu is in the world creating this controversy, while Ketu is detached from the material world. Ketu is all about our spiritual growth and evolution. Ketu holds the secrets to our past lives. It is all about the skills, the talents that we have developed. And so Ketu is all about the talents that we naturally have. If you are gifted in an area without any kind of farmer training, something that just comes naturally to you, this is related back to Ketu. Ketu is related to our intuition, to our creativity, to our ability to tap into other worlds and dimensions. Ketu is introverted. It's about going within, where Rahu is extroverted. Although because Ketu is what we have already experienced, it also is what we are detached from. And so there's a tendency to dissociate in the area that Ketu is positioned in. So what happens when Ketu is in your second house and Rahu is in your eighth house? Well, first we want to start with Ketu because Ketu is representing our past lives. It is the root, the source of where we are coming from. And so Ketu in the second house is a bit of a difficult position. This can show that there was a sense of abundance and security in a previous lifetime. And this also can be present in the earlier years of your life as well, where you're coming into a very secure background. However, Ketu in this house can disconnect you from this area because once again, Rahu is the point in which we are moving towards in this life. And so this is an axis that is related to security, the second house being about your resources and the eighth house being about shared resources. And so in this eighth house with Ketu here, there is an obsession, there is an over-attachment to your possessions, to your money, to the things that are of value to you, because there is a feeling of loss in this area. Ketu detaches you from this second house. And Ketu in this second house can actually attract a great deal of wealth to you, but you become dissociated from this. There's a feeling of not wanting these possessions, the wealth, the attachments anymore once you have received it. So this is leaving you with a void in this area when it comes to receiving wealth, when it comes to receiving all of the things that you are after in life. And when going through a Ketu Mahadasha, this can become a very active area of your life, where Ketu is going to aspect over to the 6th and the 10th house. So you can become very materialistically driven, very ambitious, very much about working hard and gaining resources. But at some point, this creates a detachment once again. There is disillusionment when it comes to this connection to wealth and material success. And so your soul has come here for a different purpose that is other than this material attachment. Now, Ketu in this second house can also make you a bit on the introverted side. You like your own space. Because once again, you're very attached to what you value, to what's important to you, to your possessions. So there is a tendency to want your own company, to be the one who is in control in this area. There can be difficulties around family, around wealth, with Ketu in this second house. You can come into some conflicts with family members, and there can be a sense of loss where you are moving away from your family as well. We'll talk more about that with Rahu in the 8th house. Ketu in the second house can also impact the way that you speak, because second house is related to the throat area, which is how you speak. And Ketu has a careless nature to it. Remember that Ketu is detached from the material. Ketu is all about our spiritual evolution. So there is a detachment when it comes to the material essence of where Ketu is placed in your chart. And so Ketu in this second house sometimes can give you a sarcastic way of speaking, or your speech can come across as very harsh, very critical, very judgmental towards others. Sometimes you can also overthink where you don't speak at all. So there is some kind of a detachment that is occurring in this area. You do want to be careful of becoming over-dependent on possessions, on money, on all of these areas that are related to this second house. So what is it exactly that this axis of Ketu and Rahu is trying to get you to move towards? With Ketu in the second house, it is giving you a great deal of occult and spiritual understanding. So you are trying to find out who you really are. What is it that you truly value? And this can take you away from your family, away from your attachments. So at some point in your life, there can be a dramatic transformation where you are losing attachments, where you are going through dramatic situations of loss. And this is going to give way to a great transformation in your life. For some of you, Ketu in the second house can mean that your early upbringing was a bit claustrophobic. You felt trapped or confined within your family, where there were very strict values enforced onto you, and you have a different way of thinking. With this position, you can feel like the black sheep in the family, where you are wanting to move into a different direction. This also means that you can sometimes become jealous or you can become obsessive. Again, this attachment to what is important to you is very strong here. There is a survival instinct where you do not want to lose anything that you own or that you are valuing. This also, though, can attract others to you who are jealous of you, who are deceptive. So with this position, you do have to use discernment about who you are allowing into your life. It is also important that you are paying attention to your health, because 𝐏𝐡𝐨𝐧𝐞 is going to aspect onto the 6th house of illnesses. And we're going to talk about in a minute how Rahu is in the 8th house of long-term illnesses as well. So you can go through dramatic transformations that involve your health as well, along with your security, your family. These are major situations where you can see changes occur in your life that are taking you through this spiritual journey. So with 𝐏𝐡𝐴 in the 2nd house, you also want to be careful of how you are managing your finances. And this is especially true when you are going through a 𝐏𝐡𝐴 Mahadasha or a Rahu Mahadasha. Both the 2nd and the 8th house are money houses. And 𝐏𝐡𝐴 in the 2nd house can give a carelessness when it comes to managing your resources. Once again, you can become obsessed with your finances, but you also can become dissociated with it, as there's a feeling of void or disconnect when gaining these things into your life. Rahu in the 8th house is going to take you through extreme changes in life. And this may be an area where you are afraid to move into. Once again, Rahu is representing our desires, but it is also representing everything that is outside of our comfort zone. It is what you have not experienced or what you have not fulfilled in a previous life. So Rahu in this 8th house is a very intense placement. The 8th house is all about sudden changes, all about the unknown. So Rahu feels very uncomfortable in this 8th house. And this is taking you into the unknown, where this is all about, once again, finding your true self, finding your true path. This is all about breaking away from everything that is not true to who you are. So Rahu in this 8th house can take you into psychology, into mysticism, into spiritual knowledge, into wanting to understand everything to the depths. You are looking for answers. And this usually takes you on a spiritual journey of understanding yourself and understanding others at a deeper level. You want to be cautious of Rahu in this 8th house when it comes to using this ability to dive into the depths in the wrong way. This can be a position where you are stalking others, where you are trying to manipulate, to control others. Again, you are trying to find this sense of security. And so, because there is a fear related to security, there is a tendency to hold on to things, to hold on to people, to try to gain a sense of control. And this can be done through this occult knowledge, through this psychological understanding, this ability to go below the surface. But you want to be careful of this, because this 8th house is a very karmic house where there can be dramatic changes. This can also be a great house for scientific research, for any kind of detective work, working undercover in the government, all of these sort of scenarios where you are behind the scenes, where you are penetrating through the surface, understanding the depths of everything. This gives you a talent in this area. And this can be an excellent position for any kind of deep research. Again, this Rahu is trying to take you deeper within yourself to find your true self. And so this can take you into many fears, insecurities. This house is all about going into the darkness, into the unknown. And so you will find that when you go through your Rahu Mahadasha, that there are dramatic changes, that there is this desire to move into the unknown. With Rahu aspecting over to the 12th house and the 4th house, this can take you away from your homeland. So some of you are moving into foreign places. Some of you are moving away from your family on this quest to find who you really are and what your path is all about. You want to be careful health-wise, especially though as you're going through the Rahu Mahadasha. Once again, this 8th house is a house of long-term illnesses, and we have 𝐏𝐡𝐴 that is aspecting that 6th house of illnesses. So you can get into accidents, injuries, all sorts of health difficulties can come up during your Rahu Mahadasha. This is also a time where you want to be very careful about your actions. Once again, this is a very karmic house where everything that you are doing that is unethical can come back to you. So this is a house where you want to be careful about all of these undercover actions. Any kind of scandals, deception, all of this can come out into the open. This is also a difficult Mahadasha when it comes to making investments, taking risk, gambling. All of this you want to be careful of at this time because once again, this is a very unstable house and Rahu can take you through dramatic extremes when you're going through this particular dasha. You can come into great losses by taking these risks. So you want to make sure that you're planning everything out carefully, that you are making wise decisions in this area rather than acting on impulse. During the Rahu Mahadasha, you may also become very generous, very charitable. Again, Rahu is going to aspect onto the 12th house, which is a house of losses. It also is a house of losses in the sense of helping other people. So this Rahu position can make you a great healer. It can make you someone who is all about helping others, all about giving back through charity. So this becomes active in your life as well. There's a huge lesson with this position that is all about letting go, about having faith, about going into the unknown. So you may find that the more that you are trying to control things, the more that you are trying to hold on to your attachments, that you will come into disappointments and losses. But when you are able to let go, this is where your life will start to flow. Depending upon how Rahu is placed in your chart, this is an excellent position for psychics, astrologers. This can give you a deep intuition. Again, an ability to go deep below the surface, to understand others, to understand yourself. This is a powerful position when it comes to diving deeper into the unknown and understanding this. And when you are operating at a higher level, using this for the right reason, this makes you an excellent healer.